Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. They say imitation is the biggest form of flattery. That was me. That was my impersonation of Ron Luce at Luce on Tap. Obviously, you're stuck with me tonight. We don't have Ron. We don't have Juice. We miss you guys. We're going to talk to you guys soon. We're going to do a full end-of-season recap here at some point coming up soon. But you're stuck with me and Tyler. Sorry for you guys. Sorry for the Cubs on Tap listeners and viewers. I know you don't mind seeing Tyler, but you probably mind seeing me. But anyways, we are here to break down and recap the last series of the season against the Cincinnati Reds. The Cubs ended up falling 2 out of 3 games to finish the year, but they still finished the season damn strong, and especially that last game of the year by knocking off the Reds 15-2, an absolute slaughter. The bats woke up. Before we get into all that, Tyler, my friend, how are you doing tonight?
Joey, I'm good. Wednesday was like the last day of school. Cincinnati was like that kid that got bullied all year long by the big bully. Wednesday morning before the game, 59 losses. Oh, we can do it, guys. We can do it. We're not going to lose 100 this year. Or they were at 61 losses, I guess. 99 losses, my bad. Oh, we're going to be all right. We're going to make it through without 100. And then we just come along and give them the biggest freaking swirly and the biggest pile of shit we could find in the bathroom all over the Reds. Smash them 15-2 to finish off the school year. Love to see it. I'm doing great.
Oh man, you just teed it up just so perfectly, dude.
Love it. I love a good Cincinnati ass whooping.
Me too. It's not Cincinnati. It's not Cincinnati.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's Ian Cincinnati. But he did go 0 for 9 in the series. But Jeremiah here popping in the comments saying hi, guys. Hi, Jeremiah. How are you doing? Good to have you here with us. Yeah, Tyler, with that said, man, Ian Happ went 0 for 9 for the series. Who cares, right? I think it was actually really cool, by the way, in that last game, how Ross, after going 0 for 1, he got him out of there and was like, yeah, buddy, you know what? You're finishing with at least a 270 average, and I'm going to get you out of this game. And he kind of did that with a few of the guys in that last game. So, and you know what the best part of it was? We'll get into the last game and all that, but the best part of it was the Chicago Cubs covered. They went over their win total of 73.5, at least where I caught the number at. I didn't think it was possible, Tyler. I was still holding out hope. Me and Bears on Tap host and, Huskies on Tap, Irish on Tap host, Brandon Suarez at Beat On 300. We had the win total over. They ended up finishing with 74 wins, 88 losses, and gave the Reds, like you said, gave them the 100th loss of the season. Just awesome stuff. I think, it was just cool to see that how they finished the season, 39 and 31 in the second half. You can't ask for much better than that, especially where they started, man. 35 and 57.
Better than a couple of the teams that are playing tomorrow. Finished better than them in the second half. And what was it? Third lowest ERA.
Yep.
In the league. I mean, awesome. Love to see it. They could have wrapped it up and said, screw this. I'm not going to play, game 162, screw it. And they said, no, we're going to remind Cincinnati we're better than them. And they did.
Yeah, and in my preseason prediction preview article and breakdown and all that, I had the Cubs going 78 and 84. They somehow finished 4 games off of that due to a remarkable, a great September second half season. Get this too, Tyler. They finished 37-44 on the road and 37-44 at home for the season. So directly split down the middle. You would like to see that home record obviously a little bit better, but yeah, and the one-run games too. Like we talked about them earlier in the season, really struggling with the one-run games. 26 and 27, they ended up finishing out in that area. So I think they improved as the season went along, as we saw.
For a team that at the beginning of the year had a lot of questions, and for a team that, let's be honest, I can't speak for all 29 other teams, but how old did it get writing all these reports about another player injured, another player injured, another player injured? What do you know? Another player injured. And for all that, to be honest, they finished as good as we probably could have asked them to finish.
Yeah, I mean, like, look at and the guys that were getting hurt were key contributors, like, and guys that you expected a lot from, or at least were hoping for a lot from this year, right? Like Marcus Stroman, Seiya Suzuki, like there was a lot of those guys in there. Wade Miley spent time down. Drew Smiley spent time down, which Wade Miley barely pitched all season, but him and Smiley were pretty damn good for the most part when they pitched, and
when they pitched.
Madrigal as well. He kind of came around at least a little bit when he came back. So there was definitely like some bad injury luck mixed in there with this team this year. And we're gonna dive more into like a series recap on the next show, and we have a full barn when we get Juice back in here, we get Ron back in here, because I want to hear everybody's thoughts. Like I think it's only right that we've been doing the show all season long. This is my first year doing this with Cubs on Tap. Like for a full season, I hopped on like a couple shows last year, but really for the most part, a full season from me this year, first time doing it. And I've had just an incredible time, man. Like me and you were talking pre-show about just how fun this has been, and like the reason why we do this. We were supposed to go live here for anyone listening or watching. We were supposed to go live at 7 p.m. tonight or around that time. Yeah. We ended up talking about old Cubs trades and old prospects that could have been, and just things Cubs.
Just shooting the shit, man.
Just completely shooting the shit.
Yeah. It's just easy to go down that rabbit hole and just get to talking about it. It's great.
That's what I was gonna say. That's what makes it so great, man. That's why we do this. It's the passion, it's the love for the Chicago Cubs. And when this team gets good, dude, like actually good and competitive, and not just like, a second half competitive team. Yeah. This is going to be fun, and I think it's closer than a lot of people.
It's closer than you think. It's closer than a lot of fans think.
Yeah, I want to build on that too. What you said earlier about the what you said about the third best starting pitcher ERA in the second half. The only teams that are better than the Cubs, which you might have said this as well, the Astros and Dodgers.
Yep.
The Cubs 2.89 since the second
2.89.
Or in the second half, starting pitching ERA. Is the next best team? What's that?
Is that starting? Is that all pitching or just starting pitching?
Starting pitching, yeah. Man, so the next best team, still incredible. And you're getting guys like Assad and Adrian Sampson and Drew Smiley, and we'll talk about all of them. But the next best team, like here it goes, right? The best since the second half in starting pitching ERA. Astros 2.70, the Dodgers 2.73, the Cubs 2.89. The next best thing, or next best team, somewhat surprising, the Los Angeles Angels 3.37 ERA. That's a huge gap. That's almost half of a full run of a gap between the Cubs.
The gap and the fact that it's the Angels.
And the Angels, right. That's another surprise.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's baseball, folks.
That's baseball, Susan. Yeah, no, man. I think it's just cool to see what they were able to accomplish this season, all things considered, and how they fought back and were able to cash that win ticket for me and Beat-On and some others. It was a kind of a miracle. But Tyler, what do you say we kind of break down what happened in this last series? Because some fun things happen, right? Like I said, I thought it was cool to see him kind of get those guys out of there in that last game. Like Nico Horner got subbed out. Seiya Suzuki, I believe, got subbed out. Ian Happ definitely got subbed out to keep his average at a healthy 271, 342, 440 slash line, close to an 800 OPS. But game one, man, Cubs lost 3-1. Couldn't get the bats going. 1 run on 2 hits, but you told me this in the Slack, and I was like, yeah. Hayden Wesneski, Hayden Wesneski, Hayden Westudski. Another great outing, man. 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 runs. One of the earned runs got taken away or changed to an unearned
Yep.
run. So he only had
Yep.
1 earned run, 1 walk, and 6 Ks. Finished the year with a 2.18 ERA. 3 of his 4 starts were quality starts, and then 5 of his 6 outings, he went 5 innings pitched or more with 2 runs or fewer allowed. Three of his 4 starts, were quality starts though. So I mean,
and I
it
want to
can't
say,
be really understated how good he's been, man. What'd you think about game 1?
dude, that was the story. Wes Nesky. I want to say, haven't all of his starts been at least? I know he's had 3 quality starts, but the 4th one wasn't it at least 5 innings?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Wasn't his starts at least 5 innings? Like the one that wasn't
5 of
start?
his 6 outings, he went 5 innings pitched or more with 2 runs or fewer allowed, and that was both from the bullpen or from a starting role.
Yeah,
So
I mean, he's been the story, dude. Like, once again, New York Yankees. If you guys are listening, I know you've got the playoffs to worry about. Well, not till next week, but thank you so much. Thank you for giving him to us just for Efros. We appreciate it. I think you guys are going to. I think you guys are going to regret it. Not to jinx it or anything, but yeah, I think you guys are going to regret trading your number 2 pitching prospect in Hayden Wesneski, because so far he's been everything we've wanted him to be and more. Like, I wasn't expecting him to. I was maybe expecting him to have like maybe 2 to 3 starts, and if he threw 3 to 4 innings, yeah, okay, cool, great. But the fact that he's thrown 3 quality starts already, one of them with an immaculate inning, and he's already showing that he's got the strut going when he's in between batters and stuff. He's got that swag.
It's fun.
He knows it, and he knows it, and I love that about him. And like what me and you talked about before the show, next season, man, there's been a lot of talk about Wes Nesky. Like, some guys, and I don't know why they think this, like you said, look at him as a depth guy. No, he is a starter. He is a rotation piece. And if we're gonna throw, if you have the option of putting him in the bullpen to start the season or just leaving him down in AAA or whatever, just leave him down, because he is a starter. He is a rotation guy. I know it. So yeah, I'm excited about him next year. Can't wait to watch him.
It's one of those things where it feels like you know it when you see it. And he was projected to be a starter. He was a starter in the minors. Yeah, they've used him in the role out of the bullpen, but like his role out of the bullpen, it's not just like a 2-3 inning guy. It's like go 5.
Yeah.
Like he can do it.
Didn't he go 5? Wasn't that it? He went 5 innings in the bullpen, his first bullpen outing.
Yeah, I want to say he had like a no-hitter going or something like that, and he only gave up like 2 hits.
It was Wade Miley's start, and then he came in and threw 5, and then at the end of the game, they were talking to Miley, and they're like, "I don't know why you're talking to me. You need to be talking to Wes Nesky."
Yeah, I was just the opener.
Yeah,
I was just the opener.
He's been electric, dude. That slider is nasty.
Mm-hmm.
God, I can't wait to watch him next year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. I think he's a guy that you pencil into the rotation as of now, and doesn't stop you from making further additions to that rotation, right? Like, that's not something that needs to stop with him necessarily going into the rotation.
And it's not. I hope Cubs fans realize, if he doesn't start the season next year in the rotation, that's not a bad thing, because maybe we sign a couple guys that we'll talk about later, this offseason. Maybe we'll sign a few guys, and people forget, like Jeremiah here, Kyle Hendricks is coming back next year.
I like that he mentioned that.
Having an abundance of starting pitchers is not a bad problem to have. Look at every single team that's playing in the play. Not every team, but your top teams, your Dodgers, your Mets, your Astros, your Guardians. They all have an abundance of starting pitchers. So if you have 3 solid guys in your farm system, let alone all the other prospects we have, if you have a couple sure guys, that could be pretty solid in your farm, that's not a bad problem to have. It's not. So, like, wherever Wesneski starts next year, he's a starter. That's it. He's not a bullpen guy. He's established himself as a starter, and I just, man, I'm excited about him.
Yeah, I am too, man. And that's the thing. Like, I don't think he's not going to struggle at all. I think he will have his struggles. I talked to Ron about this, about, he will have those lumps, and you kind of let him grow along with them, right?
Yeah.
Learn along with them. And I do believe, though, that he just the upside alone that he presents, and if he can really like dominate with a third pitch, like figure it out completely, like with a changeup or something, because he's got different variations of fastballs, and that slider's disgusting. But if you can really like hone in that changeup and maybe build upon it, I think you really have something special here. And whereas Adrian Sampson, that's kind of like him and Javier Assad. Those are the two like more mystifying ones to me, right? Like, quality. And that's a perfect transition, because like game 2, Cubs lost 3-2 again. Again, the bats didn't really do much. Javier Assad, man, 3 hits.
Shout out to Ron. Speaking of that, shout out to Ron. For Assad's first start, what did Ron say? Javier, I want 5 innings. And ever since then, it's been almost 5 innings. Like
every time almost, right?
Every time, yeah.
That's what he did this time too. I mean, he pitched in the 6th inning, 5 1/3, 4 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 4 Ks. So he doesn't give you the huge K numbers, but in the 9 games he pitched, and 8 of which came as a starter, a 3.11 ERA as a starter in those 8 games. That's under 3. It's a 2.95, because that bullpen game really, he just didn't really have it. But in that second game, we'll get to the bats too as well, because there was a couple of good performances, with the sticks. But Keegan Thompson kind of struggled a little bit out of the bullpen.
He did, but
he had the strikeout stuff going, but the walks, and then allowing the home run to Chucky Robinson. Yeah, great name, by the way. Yeah. But that kind of stung a little bit. But let's talk about Assad for a minute, though, because I feel like that's one of the guys that you write down as a depth piece next year. And if he can give you some spot starts, who knows? Like, I don't know what his exact role would be next year, but he's just one of the many pitchers right now that seem to be pitching.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely one of those guys that, he's going to be a depth piece. He's either going to be a guy that, he's going to make your spot starts here and there. You may ask him to throw 4 or 5 innings from the bullpen. And if he starts the season once again, depending on how the offseason goes, maybe he starts the season off in the minors. No big deal. We've seen what Assad's capable of doing. So if he starts off in the minors, because we have an overabundance, which I think we will. That's the one. If there's one thing we've learned from this season, is we've got more pitching than maybe we thought we did. We've got more quality pitchers than maybe we thought we did, or at least a lot of fans were saying at the beginning of the year. And Assad is one of those guys. So, I don't see him. It wouldn't shock me if he didn't make the rotation next year, but that doesn't mean that he can't be effective in 2023, whether that's coming in for 3-4 innings or making your starts here and there. Because how many times have, just like this year, how many times have we started the season with a healthy rotation all the way up till the All-Star break? Hell, all the way through the first 2 months of the season. It's been rare.
Yeah, we were without. That's somebody we didn't mention with the injuries too. Kyle Hendricks missed basically the entire
There's so many you forget about them.
Right, exactly, and that's why I agree, man. Like, this is it. I think the Cubs right now have exactly what a lot of teams, like you said, the successful teams that make long, deep runs into the postseason or consistently get to the postseason have, and that's starting pitcher depth. Something that the Cubs have not had for a while. The entire time that core was together, the old core.
Yeah,
like
props to Jed Hoyer.
Yeah, I think this is a great plan of attack. I really do. I really think that this is a great plan of attack, and it's something that I don't want to give us like too much credit, but I think that we've been kind of calling for a lot of this stuff, right? Like, we've been saying that this is something that they can do. They can kind of reverse attack this thing and then go grab some hitters and still go grab some pitchers. Like, it's not necessarily like there's one way to build a winning baseball team.
No,
and I think that a lot of times
it's easier. It's not to say that it's easy, but it's easier if you have that developed pitching, if you have that stable of pitchers.
Look at the Angels, man. All these years, we talked about how good they've been in the second half with the starting pitching. A lot of that's probably Ohtani. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But as great as he's been, putting himself in the MVP discussion alongside of Aaron Judge, which two just fantastic seasons that you love to see, just around baseball. But they've been struggling with this for so long, man. Getting quality pitching.
You could trace it. Yeah, you could trace it all the way back to what they won the World Series in 2002. This has been decades. I mean, the only, at least, not to turn this into an Angels podcast, but Jared Weaver. That's really about one of the last big Angel starters. So it shows quality pitching really helps. And if you don't have it, it's hard.
That's why Mike Trout can't sniff the postseason.
Yeah.
The best player in the game for a decade? You know what I mean? Like, he can't sniff the postseason. So it's you need to have it. And now that they have like an abundance of it, it's something special, I think, that's brewing on the north side of Chicago. And I'm just excited to see what comes out of this. And, maybe I think Jeremiah had a great point here. He said, I kind of see Assad as a good trade piece, right? And maybe that is a possibility. I don't see all these guys sticking in the rotation or sticking on this team throughout, its competitive years.
Yeah. But maybe he's a guy that gets dealt. Who knows what happens next season? But let's say it gets to a point where we need a bat, like you're talking about. Because there's going to be a couple shortstops this offseason, but hey, there may be another position player we need later next year. Assad could be a guy that could help us get that piece, to get that bat that we need, that might get us over the hump, to get us into the playoffs maybe. I don't know. So yeah, I like that. I like that idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I'm with Jeremiah here. I think that's a great idea, or something that the front office needs to consider, right? I mean, but speaking of the bats, let's go ahead and look at what happened in that second game of the series. Nico Hoerner launched his 10th home run of the season.
Double digits, baby.
Double-digit home runs for Nico Hoerner. You love to see it. I think there's still a little bit more in there. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. He kind of cooled off over his last 10 games of the season, but still finished with a strong 281 average. I mean, this guy was hovering around 300 for a lot of the time. That bat flip was cool, as Jeremiah points out here in the comments. That bat flip was cool. He knew it. He knew it was gone. And 20 for 22 in stolen base attempts. That was something. I think he stole the base on the final game of the season.
Who, Hoerner?
Yeah, I think it was the final game of the season.
Yeah, and to be honest, that's been at least for me, that's been a quiet 20 stolen bases.
It has. He's just very efficient, man, and he's got the wheels to do it, though.
It's like, dude, lock that guy up this offseason. I know, and we'll spend all year talking about, Wilson Contreras, Ian Happ, who we're going to pay for a shortstop, or blah, 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 blah. Lock down Nico Hoerner.
Mm-hmm.
Lock him down. And you know what?
It's the perfect time to do it.
It's the perfect time to do it. He's got so much versatility. Like you said, I think he's got more than 10 home runs in the bat. I think he can hover close to 20. Give him, he gets hot, has a hot month or two. Like, I think he could get 20. And he can play, dude. He can play anywhere in the infield. He could play center field if we need him in center. Lock that dude down, man. But yeah, 20 stolen bases. That was quiet. 20 for 21. You don't hear about that, or at least I haven't heard
20 that. 20 for 22, but close enough.
Still, 20 for 22.
Yeah.
I don't even know who the leader is in stolen bases right now. But like, God, it's just so freaking impressive. And that's another question at the beginning of the year: who was going to be our shortstop? And Nico Hoerner shut those questions, just shut that talk down like early. early, the first month. Best
Dude.
shortstop in Chicago.
This season, there's no question, right? Like there might be a question moving forward if Tim Anderson plays more games and kind of plays up to the level that he has played at. But like defensively, there is no question that he's better than Tim Anderson, at least in Chicago. And you talked about the defensive, like what he was able to show us even early on, right? Like show us how good he was defensively and put all the questions behind us.
And at the very least, he's going to finish at least second in the Gold Glove.
I think you're right, man. Like Dansby Swanson was the only guy above him in outs above average, and that's among shortstops. So
that's among guys who's he? Trey Turner, arguably one of the. My mind's gone blank, but as far as other guys in the National League, like that is so impressive, so impressive.
And this is a great point here being made too. It could be the cheapest that Nico Horner could be at this point. Like he might be more expensive. He puts on more power, in-game power. You're not getting him for what you might get him for this offseason. So I think, and I don't think this prevents you from. We're going to get into all the offseason talk. Like as we move on, we're going to do plenty of offseason shows and stuff like that. But like. It should not prevent you from making another signing for a middle infielder type, whether it's a shortstop that stays at shortstop or moves to a different position, or it's a shortstop that whatever you want to do with Nico, keep him at short or move him to second, whatever you want to do. It doesn't have to. You can do both things in one off season. You can lock up Nico long term, and you can sign a quality like a top of the line shortstop.
Nico has made it to where, don't get me wrong, it'd be awesome if we sign one of the big four shortstops available, but let's say we don't, but we decide to do other stuff with our money, other stuff that's going to help next year. Maybe they see somebody else down the road that could play second or third. Nico's made it to where if Nico's our starting shortstop next year, I'm not mad about that. Depending on, what other moves we make, but like if Nico is the 2023 shortstop on opening day, I'm not upset about that. Not at all.
I wouldn't be upset at all. And honestly, I think there's only like a couple guys that I would move him off of short to put, know what I mean? Like you can bring in those other guys, but only a couple of those guys I would move him off of short to put that guy.
Not to get super in depth with it, but like let's say we sign Xander Bogaerts. I'd rather have Nico at short. Yeah.
All day. And I think he's at short over Trey Turner. I think Trey Turner's shown that he can play a little second. Like
a little second. He's shown I want to say he started in center. He's shown he could be just as versatile too. So I wouldn't be upset if Turner played second. And then to be honest, hell, fuck it. Sorry, excuse my language, but if we sign Correa and we put Correa at third or something, you know what I mean? And just whatever. I don't think that would happen. I think he'd probably want to play. But again, I'm not going to be upset if we sign or if Nico's starting next year. And kind of like what it's just to kind of go off what we've been talking about with what Jeremiah you just put up just a while ago. What are we going to do with Magical? An overabundance of
all over, right?
Of players. It's not a bad problem.
He could be a trade piece too, though. He really could. He could be a piece that, like, look at Starlin Castro, right? Team was ready to win. They didn't need him because you had Addison Russell at the time, which, a lot of the Cubs' downfall could be looked at as.
Oh, yeah. It could go back to that.
Big part of that, right? Like not being there and, all the stuff with his wife and all that situation. Yeah. But, like, I do think that it would make sense to kind of package maybe one of these starting pitchers that you have as depth, right? Like Adrian Sampson's actually locked up for a little bit too. Yeah. Like he's not a guy that you're going to have to like a mutual option accept or, come to terms with like a Drew Smiley. Like he's on the roster next year.
There's several guys like Zach McKinstry. He is not eligible he's not arbitration eligible yet. So he would barely cost the league minimum. I'm not trying to say, hey, let's put, let's get McKinstry and that'll be it. I'm not saying that. I just mean if you're
as
looking
bench
for
bat, though, I think
if you're looking for a utility bat, not bad. But I like that the way like Jeremiah, for example, that asked that question, what do we do with Magical? I'd rather, at the end of the year, it's nice to know that at the end of this season, we're asking questions of what are we going to do with these guys instead of who are we going to get to to cover this hole we have. You know what I mean? Like we're asking more of, golly, we have
Which
so
one?
many. Which one are we going to use? Like we're asking those questions instead of, God, who the hell are we going to get to fill all these holes we have? And that's just a sign of, you know what? Yeah, we didn't finish first in our division, but there's a lot of positive notes from this season that we can build on. And this second half of the season just reminded, just was another reminder that, hey, we're closer to being contenders than we think.
And this is another perfect segue because I'm glad that you mentioned McKinstry here. And, because I think he's played really good defense at both short and second. Like, I think he's been really solid. The bat has come to life at different moments. Like, he hit a freaking nuke the last game of the season, which we're going to talk about right now. And then another guy, too, that he's, 30 years old that they got from Tampa Bay, who's actually been pretty impressive, too, at second base, in my opinion, defensively. And he's been hitting the ball. Esteban Quiroz. I don't know what you do with him either. Like, we're talking about Madrigal, we're talking about McKinstry. And then on the final game of the year, with the Cubs just going to town on the Reds, 15-2, it was the David Bodie game. Like, he launched one, hit a 3-run homer, and then he had, I think, a 2-run double, 5 RBIs for the day. McKinstry had 3 RBIs. Higgins had 3 RBIs. Like, the bats, the Franimal went yard.
And
McKinstry's, like, his bomb was just like he nuked that thing to right field. And that just leads me into, like, one of my buddies who I actually play baseball with on Sundays, Mitch, shout out to you if you're listening to this. He said, am I crazy? Like, he asked me, he's like, am I crazy to think that Bodie's a piece moving forward? I think he's looking at it as like a depth option or like a utility guy. I don't think he's crazy. I just think it's kind of like what you said just a minute ago, right? It's which one? Like, which one? And I look at these roster spots, they're so sacred right now, because you also have to think about who you're keeping on the 40-man as far as, like, minor league players go, which there are a lot of them that need 40-man spots, and you don't want to give them up for nothing or let another team scoop them up. I feel like between Wisdom with the power, McKinstry with his defense at second and third, what he's shown, and
I know what you're going to say.
Like, I don't think Bodie has a spot here next year. I know, waving it goodbye. I see your hand right there. I think he provides some decent power. He actually probably has a little bit of leadership at this point because he's been one of the longer tenured Cubs, I'd say, right now.
I want to. What's his contract? Was he got like 2 more years left, maybe on that 5-year deal?
That I'm not quite.
I want to say, when I wrote the piece this morning from last night, I was just looking at McKinstry because I talked about McKinstry and Bodie, and McKinstry, his contract expires at the end of this year. I want to say Bodie has at least one more. He may be done after 20. Don't quote me, but maybe 24. Or it's either the end of next year or the end of 24.
Okay.
He's got at least one more year.
It was a very surprising contract when that was signed, and we thought we were kind of getting a steal when they made that because he was playing well.
He was solid, and he had that big. I know everyone wants to talk about the big game against the Nationals, that walk-off grand slam, but like he had his moments, and he also provides. He's another guy that provides some versatility. You can put him at first, second, third. You could probably put him in the corner outfield if you had to. But yeah, like you said, out of McKinstry, which we don't know what's going to happen to Wisdom, but out of guys like, we're going to have
Magic. Keep Wisdom just because of the power, like that element.
Yeah, if you had to keep, I would keep Wisdom over Bodie. But then also because you've also got to think we've got guys like a Christopher Morel that he's going to be in that infield somewhere, or maybe the outfield. I guess it just all depends on our young guys. But I feel like agreeing with you. If you said which one, Bodie's not the one. I think Bodie's the one that gets that. If you got rid of any of them, it would be Bodie.
I think he's the easiest one to kind of
especially being so right-handed. I would take McKinstry over Bodie because McKinstry's got the left-handed bat too. Because we're very right-handed. We've got a couple lefties, but we're very right-handed. So yeah, I would pick Bodie.
And same with Esteban Quiroz. Like Esteban Quiroz, he really kind of impressed me with his offense. His defense kind of went maybe not unnoticed, but not talked about enough. Like I think his defense was pretty impressive at second base.
Short
different
king.
Times.
Short king.
Yeah. We got the short guys on lock. It's like him and Madrigal and like these short guys, Stroman even. The Cubs love them some short ball players, especially second baseman. But I mean, I know he's a little bit older, right? I don't know what he's going to be. I feel like he might have a little bit of pop in that bat. But 2 defensive runs saved in only 14 games played.
I was about to say he spent most of the year in the minors in AAA, didn't he?
Well, he actually spent a lot of the time injured because I know a lot of people were talking about with the Harold Ramirez, but he was in the minors, for the time.
I remember that was an offseason deal, right?
It was like right before the season because Harold Ramirez, there were some issues with him. I think he might have shown up a little out of shape as well. So then they traded him to the Tampa Bay Rays, and then got Esteban Quiroz back. But I mean McKinstry too. ZMAC, as Boog says, 3 outs above average combined at both second base and shortstop for him. So
solid, man.
It's solid, right? Like defense wins you games. Pitching and defense can win you plenty of games, and that's kind of been the model the Cubs have been.
Oh yeah, I mean, not
success the second half.
Not to go back to living in the old days, but 2016, the defense was solid.
Yeah, the defense was solid. Absolutely, they had the best defense in 2016. And I like Jeremiah's point here. Bodie is in the 96th percentile in max exit velocity. That's damn good. He can hit the ball hard. He can hit the ball for power. The strikeouts, I think he has issues with the strikeouts. I don't see his it's just so hit or miss. Like, are you keeping him? I think the decision for me is Bodie or Patrick Wisdom, who can play outfield as well, right?
I'm going Patrick.
Yeah, and I mean we've spent times on this show bashing Patrick Wisdom for the strikeout numbers and talking about like how we don't see him as a long-term fit. But a short-term fit next season while he's still under control, and maybe he is also a guy that you package where somebody's like looking at him as like, we need that power bat. We can kind of package him in a Javier Assad or something like that.
He has to kind of like bouncing off what you said between Bodie and Patrick. I'm picking Patrick just because they both strike out a lot, but Patrick has more of he's got that chance to hit, he's got that power threat that he, maybe he strikes out a lot, but when he makes contact,
it's more of a power threat.
Now, I like that idea as far as maybe package him in at the end, and I hate saying that because I love Patrick Wisdom, but at, a little bit older, we've got other guys coming up. Also potentially as far as whoever we sign this offseason, it all is really going to depend on, can Patrick start off the first half like he did this year? He started off hot at the beginning of the first half of the season. I think nearly almost 20 home runs at the first.
I think he got hurt too. So
he had a. That's the one thing about the second half. He had that nagging finger injury, and people, it's a finger injury. It's a finger injury. Man, that thing it's annoying. Like finger injury, they're annoying. Like people can say what they want. Like that can really affect your, your swing, your power, all that kind of stuff. Like, so I'm not knocking him for that. It's just, I just hope next year he can come off, because he had an impressive stat earlier this year. Like since there was a date, maybe sometime in May. I want to say in May, sometime in the past 162 games, he was like third in home runs. Like for the last, it was like a stat that it was like
one of the fastest ones to a certain mark of home runs.
But they wanted. Like it was sometime like early in May where they said in the last 162 games, Patrick Wisdom has been, it was either third in home runs among everybody, or maybe third in home runs among all third basemen. Something. It was something crazy. And I was just like, because I remember reading it thinking like, holy crap, I didn't realize that. But yeah, I'm keeping Wisdom over Bodie, and hopefully maybe that power comes back next year, and like you said, maybe we package him for somebody with an Assad or whoever.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not to say that you have to do that. I just think that should be looked at as an option, right? Like, and any injury to your hand, I agree. Your finger, like, it affects your swing. It's going to. Yeah. So kind of like reeling it back into this final game, because there was a lot that happened in that final game. Adrian Sampson started the game. He left with a groin issue. Unfortunate way for him to end the season, given just how dominant he was, especially in September.
Came out of nowhere this year too. It just has been solid.
Yeah, I mean, I think he had a 2.80 ERA in limited action with the Cubs last year, but then he finally got his shot again this year. Or
he proved a lot this year for me.
He did.
He showed a lot.
In 38 2/3 innings in September, a 1.63 ERA, 1.03 WHIP, finishes with a 3.11 ERA, the same ERA that Assad finished with in 21 games pitched and 19 games started. He really turned in a solid effort this season. I mean, he was given quality starts, quality innings, kept the team in the game just about every time he went out there. And I don't know if this is like, I don't want to get ahead of myself and say that he's I think Jeremiah put it earlier in the comments about, the rotation and penciling him in. I'm not sure that he's penciled into a rotation spot, just given like so much of these conversations right now are dependent on what the Cubs do in the offseason. And so
I agree.
That's where I'm like, if he's your 5 or something, sure, I have no problem with it.
Yeah, what was that crazy? What was that crazy quality start stat he had this year? Like, it was something crazy as far as he had was it like 7 quality starts? And I agree with you. It's crazy that we're saying that a guy that had that many quality starts, it may not have been 7, but like it was because Boog was talking about it on a broadcast.
He's penciled in somewhere. I don't want to get it twisted. Yeah,
but like it's crazy that we're talking about him being a potential death piece, and I agree. For a guy that like did so well this year.
No, I know you feel like when you do something like that, you've earned your spot as a rotation piece, just given what you produced, and prying that away from him. That's going to be a hard conversation to have with.
Yeah, I hope next year. Yeah, I hope next year that's not an issue, and that's going to be hard. That's hard. That's a hard conversation to have. Anybody that if you played any baseball at all, like it's a hard conversation to have with your coach. Is like, you were good this year. I don't blame Adrian Sampson if he comes in next season and being like, I'm a rotation guy. I hope he's like that. I'm sure he's going to be like that. He's a competitor. He's going to be like that. And I know that's probably going to be a hard conversation with him and Ross being like, hey, look, man, you might not be a rotation guy this year. We might use you as a depth piece. We might use you as a bullpen piece, but you're going to make starts. Or, hey, maybe we pencil you in as the 5th guy, whatever, But, yeah, it's a hard conversation to have. Yeah. But, man.
I think if there's anybody that I could see taking that in stride, maybe not – I shouldn't say anybody. I think there are a lot of guys that would take it in stride and just be like, hey, I need to do what it takes for this team to be good and for this team to win ball games. Adrian Sampson always struck me, like in his post-game pressers, he struck me as a guy that was pretty even keel and like very aware of how he was pitching, even when he would like muscle through some outings where he didn't have his best stuff. Like, he seems like that type of guy where it's more of an understanding. It's a tough conversation to have, considering like you're kind of telling him, we know you're good, we know you've pitched really well, but we see a little bit more upside with some of these other guys. And that's kind of the case if you're looking at it from like a Wesneski standpoint compared to him. And you're kind of looking at this as he's not an overpowering pitcher. He's a pitch to contact pitcher. You have that with Kyle Hendricks. If Hendricks doesn't turn it around, though, this is where another part of the conversation kind of gets added in. If he doesn't turn it around as far as like back to Kyle form, I can see him being out of the rotation in May.
I can too. And he's a guy. he's a guy that if he's not in the rotation, it may be his final days in Chicago, which sucks. But hey, we're at a point. We're at a turning point right here. It's not quite. We're not quite at this point yet, but we're getting to that point of, spring training is going to be exciting. There's going to be a lot of competition, and I think and I'm sure Hendricks already sees that. He's like, I'm going to have to step my game up because there's a lot of guys, a lot of young guys that are still looking to prove themselves. And, if he, like you said, if he's not on his professor game, we could see him out of the rotation. Because of 88 mile, no offense. I know
I don't love that. Sorry. I was going to say something else. Go ahead.
An 88 mile an hour fastball out of the bullpen. I just don't see Hendricks as a bullpen guy. I don't. And I don't think anybody does. He's really going to have to bring us, he's going to have to bring it this, early next season.
Backing up your point there, he's not been a guy like most of his struggles come in the first inning.
Yeah.
How is he going to be a bullpen guy?
You're right. Yeah. I don't even want to see that stat. I'm sure it's out there somewhere of what are his first inning stats in his career. Because, man, you hit the nail on the coffin.
He's a field.
Yes,
he's a field pitcher, man. He's got to find his groove within the game, I think, more times than not. And maybe he will be a great coach someday. Like I think that's totally possible. Like he's a great pitching coach. I don't necessarily think he's done. I don't
think he is either. But
I'm just saying, like, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of patience if you see the way, like, if this team's winning games, or he's a reason why they are losing the games, like, at least every fifth day. You can't be overly patient when this team looks like it's getting closer and closer to actually winning.
Yeah. But I guess just kind of bouncing off, still on the same topic, but like bouncing off Sampson, guys like, especially on Wednesday's game, guys like Alzolay and Keegan Thompson, both of those guys. I'm excited about both of those guys. I wouldn't be mad, like we talked about before the season. I wouldn't be mad if Adbert Alzolay and Keegan Thompson started the year off in the bullpen as these multi-inning guys. I wouldn't be mad. And hell, what do you know?
That's where they should start.
Maybe one of them turn into our closer. I wouldn't be upset about that. Maybe we just keep him as a 2-3 inning guy. Keegan started the year off, like you said, in game 2 of this series. Yeah, he struggled a little bit, but other than yesterday, like he's been ever since he came back from his injuries, he's been pretty solid out of the bullpen. And every outing he's had, I want to say it's been at least 2 innings, and that's exactly what he was to start the season off. The only reason we put him in the rotation was because of all the 55 injuries we had with pitchers earlier this year. And Alzolay, obviously, and with Alzolay, we already knew that he wasn't going to start a game. David Ross said that. I know he talked about saying, hey, look, he basically said Adbert's going to get maybe 1 or 2 outings, maybe 3, just to give him some feel before the end of the year, more kind of like a feel-good thing of, let's finish the season off. You can play a couple of major league games. The guy had 6 outings. 6 outings. And I want to say he put up, what do we got here? A 3.38 ERA and got the win on Wednesday, but through, 2 1/3 innings. Like, I wouldn't be upset, depending on what our rotation looks like. I wouldn't be upset if Alzolay was, and
it's a way to keep him healthy too.
It's crazy that we're even talking about this, because at the beginning of this year we were like, oh, Alzolay is going to be one of our top rotation guys. Now, if he was a rotation guy, I don't even know if he'd be in the top 3. So I wouldn't be mad if he was a multi-inning guy. Like this season, just bouncing off the season, just talking about that and this whole year in general. We found a lot of bullpen guys, especially a lot of multi-inning guys. Everyday Hughes.
Everyday Hughes, baby.
Mark Leiter Jr. Ullman. Like Ullman pitched, he pitched Sunday, or he pitched Wednesday. That guy, like that man, like there's something about Ullman I really like. His stuff, like he's got so much movement on it. Like he doesn't throw high 90s. If this makes any sense, he doesn't throw high 90s, but the way the hitters react off him, it looks like he's throwing high 90s.
It's deceiving. It's
yeah,
very
but
deceiving.
he's
And the
got
bullpen was nails, man. And that final game of the season, especially too. I mean, Sampson goes out after 2 2/3 to the groin injury, and you're thinking, oh boy,
yeah,
right. That's a long game for a bullpen.
Oh, yeah.
That's a long game.
Oh,
and you got Elzalai. He picked up the win. You know, you have Leiter Jr., Rucker, Wick, Hughes, 6 1/3 shutout innings between the bullpen. Like that's the type of stuff that we've seen the Cubs be able to do, even after trading away Michael Givens, David Robertson, Scott freaking Efros, Chris Martin, who actually kind of turned it around. He started to pitch much better before he was traded. I don't know if it was like right before he was traded, but you know, he had some moments there, so like a period of time where he was pitching pretty well. And yeah, I feel really good about the way the bullpen's going to come together as a whole.
And think about this. Cody Hoyer didn't pitch a single inning this year. We haven't heard anything. We talked about this before the show. Haven't heard anything about the great Braylon Marquez. I hope we see him next year. He's been dealing with injuries or something.
Yeah, he's been dealing with a lot.
Gosh, I hope he can come back healthy because I'm so freaking excited about Braylon Marquez. Man, I want to see him throw so bad.
It's crazy too because I'm still really high on guys like Jeremiah Estrada.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about him. Yeah, like, dude, he's been like. And then Manny, which I think
I'm not sure completely about him.
I'm not either,
but I think he's shown different flashes here and there. But he kind of doesn't have that strikeout stuff for a bullpen guy either.
Not like an Estrada, and that's another guy. Like maybe we see Estrada develop into that shutdown closer.
Maybe I think he's got the best that fastball.
It's crazy. Once again. At the beginning of this year, we had a lot of questions. A lot of it was pitching questions. Who's going to be in our bullpen? And even the first half, the bullpen was awesome. And then at the All-Star break, after we lost those guys, we were like, shit, our bullpen's going to, we're about to give up some runs. And they've continued the streak from the first half. And it's just like, it's a great problem to have next year. So many guys to choose from.
One of the more underrated bullpens in the league this year, I think, as a whole, just in the entire season, I think. Like there were moments there, first half of the season, where you were really scared. Like, you know, that was like also you had experiments with Daniel Norris, you had your Sean Newcombs, you had different guys. I think adding another lefty, I think I heard Juice and Ron talking about this on the last show. Adding another lefty is vital. Maybe Stephen Brault, who also had injury issues and had another issue. He hasn't pitched for a little while now, but maybe Stephen Brault's that guy to go along with Everyday Hughes. I don't know where that comes from exactly, but I think adding a lefty this offseason makes a lot of sense. We're going to get into all that, of course, but we're kind of running a little bit long here, but I feel like we haven't been on the mic for a little bit. At least me and you haven't, Tyler. And
man, we haven't. And like we say, every time me and you get together, we freaking talk and talk. But I love it, dude. And like, it's hard to I know we've been trying to we kind of been wanting to keep it short, but like, God, man, like there's just so much stuff to be excited about. Like after watching not only this past series, but yeah, I agree, Jeremiah. Never say Daniel Norris's name again.
It's DFA Norris, by the way.
But there's just so much stuff you can say about this team that before the season started you just didn't know. And hey, maybe we didn't technically compete in 2022, but honestly, like I don't feel as bad about before this season when everybody was pissed off because I thought we said we were going to compete, and we're pretty close.
I just want to say one thing real fast, and this is not to take away disregard anybody's opinion about baseball or the Cubs or anything like that, or to like completely boost us up. But I want to say one thing. Early on in the season, before the season, in the very early parts of the season, all that, even before the season, we stayed pretty consistent here on Cubs on Tap saying they're going to spend money and this team will get better and they're making a lot of these good moves. Now you're seeing it, and it's just funny to me, Tyler, how a lot of people are like, oh, look what they did in the second half. Now they can spend money. I think they were going to spend money regardless of what they did in the second half. I do think that this is pushing Jed Hoyer and the fan base, and now everybody's jumping aboard that they should spend money this offseason. I think it was always set up for that.
This just makes it even sweeter.
It makes it even sweeter, and you're building with these players. You're building a winning attitude, and like these guys are learning how to win on the fly. Like a lot of these young players are learning and like getting better in one-run games. I think that's a big thing. 1-run, 2-run games. Like the Cubs have played. I want to say I heard a stat on one of the broadcasts with Pat Hughes and Ron Coomer talking about like they've played either the most or like very high up there as far as 2-run games go, like 2 runs or less in the league. So yes, run differential matters, but when you're playing in a lot of those 2-run or less games and you're coming out on the other side of those, that's like little tweaks here and there. That's like another player or two here and there added in that could make your team go over the top. And that's what I think is real special about once these guys are learning how to win, learning how to play at this level, and then you add these a little bit more additions, maybe higher WAR players, a couple of them here and there. All of a sudden, you have an 88-win team, or you have a 90-win plus team. You know what I mean? So,
and it's coming, man. It's coming. It's like kind of. I know he asked us earlier as far as Jeremiah. He asked us if we saw what Pete Alonso said. Yeah, it's coming because even Pete Alonso acknowledged. He's like, we got swept by the Cubs earlier this year, and
just a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah, and first sweep of the season for the Mets, and they know it's coming.
Context. I want to add the context there. He was asked a question about, do you think it's like deserving or something like that you have to play in the wild card game because you have over 100 wins? And he's like, we got swept by the Cubs. Like,
they were talking because they're like, oh, there's just, as far as them getting swept by the Braves. And he's like, well, let me back up for a second. We got swept by the Cubs. And it's like, it's coming, man. Like, I don't think this is a fluke. I think that, what was that interesting stat? I don't know it right off the top of my head, but there was a stat that, as far as us against NL East, which is arguably the tough. A lot of people could argue that it's the toughest division in the
killed them
baseball.
this year.
We crushed the NL East this year. Swept the Phillies twice, which I was there for the first one of the home series. Swept the Phillies, swept the Mets. I'm not 100% sure how we did against the Braves, but man, it's exciting.
Yeah, and I agree here too. I think, we've mentioned Jeremiah a lot on the show, but we appreciate you hopping in the comments.
Yeah, he's asking, making good comments.
Yeah, I love it. He says we don't even need a draft pick next year. We are so loaded. I'm not saying I agree with that necessarily, but what I agree with is I don't think that winning and getting a lesser probability for a higher draft pick, I don't think that hurts a team like the Cubs, whose farm system is already getting to that point where you consider it loaded, right? Like teams like the Dodgers. Like the Dodgers are never up near the top towards
never.
Like draft picks, right? But they churn and burn. You have a good
28, 29, 30.
A good scouting department, a good development team, and all of a sudden you create a good farm system. Like that's what they do. They take guys from the mid to late 20s and 30, and they build them up and make them
into
or guys that they take in the 3rd round or whatever. And you're kind of seeing that here with the Cubs. And
that's why it's like what you said as far as all these rankings and stuff like that. That's all fine and dandy. But it's all about just, you can take look at Christopher Morel. Was he even a top 20 guy in our farm system?
He might have been a top 20, but he wasn't. No, I don't even know if he was top 20 yet. Yeah.
And
I can't remember.
Came out of the blue. So all these rankings and stuff, or even the pick numbers, whoop-de-doo, man. It's all about just you got a good development system, and that goes a long way. And so far this year, like we're seeing that. We're seeing that. And hopefully, a prospect is just a prospect until he's not. There's a good maybe not all these guys pan out that we've got like our boy Rob that's wrote all our farm reports. Got us all excited about all these young prospects. Maybe not all of them are maybe not all of them pan out, but I think several of them are. I just seeing the guys that have came up this year and how they developed. If that's what's going on down in our farm system right now, I think we've got a lot to be excited about.
Agree. I 100% agree with that. And yeah, I just think that there's positive vibes everywhere with this. You look through this team, like I've had so much fun this year tracking that stuff, watching the prospects play. And, there's a great plug there. Rob's articles, go check out some of those that you might have missed, his farm reports. Absolutely incredible stuff that he's putting out there at ontapsportsnet.com. But before we go, Tyler, I want to get your thoughts here. We're heading towards the postseason. The Cubs obviously aren't in it, but hopefully next year.
Best time of the year, though.
Best time of the year. Best baseball is being played starting soon. Who do you have? Like, what's your pick to who's going to the ALCS? Who's going to the NLCS? Or I should say who's going to the World Series and who's winning it this year?
Gosh, put me on the spot, man. Well,
had to do it to you.
Yeah, real quick. October baseball. I'm from Kentucky. Supposedly Kentucky basketball's gospel. March Madness, blah blah blah. October is better than March. I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of basketball. October is better than March to me.
And I love March Madness too.
March Madness
I love making the brackets.
But like tomorrow, it's like I can't wait to start watching the games tomorrow. I'm off work tomorrow. I can't wait. I want the Mariners to make it to the World Series. That's who I want to. But you asked me who is making the World Series. From the AL, I'm going with, just like almost a lot of other people, I'm going with the Astros. They're so complete. I hate to say it. They're so complete. Their pitching, their offense, their whole lineup just solid 1 through 9. NL, I hate to say it. I think Atlanta's going back.
Interesting.
And with that being said, part of me wants to say the Mets, but I think the Mets are going to Mets. And not to get on a big thing about it, but I know we'll talk about it later this year. But just a little, I'm just throwing a little teaser out there. Hey, Jacob DeGrom, you're not starting tomorrow in your team's arguably most important game of the year so far. What does that say? What are the Mets telling you? Maybe they're trying to say something. That's all I'm going to say.
Who is starting tomorrow? I don't even know.
Scherzer.
Interesting.
He's not even DeGrom's not even penciled in for game 2.
Postseason experience. Well, who's 2 then?
I want to say they've talked about maybe Carrasco. I think it all depends on game 1 for them as far as who's game 2. But anyways, so yeah, Jacob, not to stir the pot, but hey, you're not starting game 1 of your playoff. So, and you're also going to be a free agent next year. So I'm just going to throw that out there. But yeah, I'm going Astros Braves. But as far as just fanboy who I want to see, I would love to see the Mariners make it. I would love to see. God, to be honest, I wouldn't mind seeing the Blue Jays, and I wouldn't mind. I think everybody's sleeping on the Guardians. I know they're in the weakest division, but they're still solid. They're young.
Got one of the best closers in the game too.
Got one of the best closers. They've got an awesome rotation. They run the bases very well. It's going to be exciting. I want to watch, like you said, I'm excited about Schwarber. I want to see him hit some Schwarber bombs. I think St. Louis is sleeping on him. You're starting Jose Quintana game 1. I'm ready to watch the Cardinals lose early. But yeah, I'm going Astros Braves. I think Astros win it.
You mentioned the 2 teams that I have tickets on as far as like preseason wagers go. I put a ticket in on the Blue Jays to win the American League, and I put a ticket on the Seattle Mariners to win the World Series. So if one of those 2 things happen, I'll be happy.
I hope they do. I really do. I would love to see that, man. I would. Like, I want to see them win that. Like, either one of those 2 teams. If I had to pick one, obviously, I've been saying Seattle, but either one of those 2 teams, man, like Toronto playoff games, I would love it. Like,
oh, it's electric, man. It's electric.
Like, I wish
Joey Bats days.
I wish there was like this rule where all the teams in the playoffs. I had this thought the other day. I'm sure somebody else has had it. What if like playoff teams could almost sign players that didn't make the playoffs almost as mercenaries? Maybe something like if a player is going to be a free agent the next year. Let's say Shohei was a free agent next year. At the end of the regular season, you could sign Shohei, but maybe like it would cost you like, hey, you'd have maybe like a minimum amount of money, as well as like it cost you, I don't know, some type of X amount of picks, something, like I don't know, just something like that. It'd be cool. But just because I say that, I love that Stroman's on the Cubs, but like just watching Stroman pitch in Toronto a few years ago,
it was fun.
Was awesome. Like that was just electric. So like,
I'm hoping, man. There's not many places that top that atmosphere in the playoffs.
No, because it's a whole country. One of them, though. Toronto, it's the whole entire all of Canada. That's Canada's team. Mm-hmm. So like that place is gonna be rocking. But I think do they play in let me see. No, they play in Toronto. Yeah, they play in Toronto tomorrow at all 3 games at Toronto starting tomorrow at 3:00. That place is gonna be rocking. I can't wait to watch that game. And real quick, no, I'm sorry. Who do you got? Who do you got?
No, go ahead. What was your thought there?
I was just going to say as far as the schedule for tomorrow, but go ahead and let's hear your pick.
All right, so I'm with you on the Astros. I do think they're just such a complete team. Verlander, that rotation, their pitching is just. That's something that I don't think a lot of people were expecting once you lose like a guy like Garrett Cole, who wasn't.
And Verlander's freaking 30. What is he, 39 or 40?
He's old. He's just like, it's Max Scherzer. Like these 2 guys just keep doing it. They're like the ageless wonders of the game. Along with maybe Nelson Cruz, who probably didn't have the best year he's had.
But he's done. He said he's playing next year.
Yeah, I mean, hey, looking for a team that can. You need a little slug. I don't know. I don't even know what his final numbers were, but I know he wasn't putting up his grade of the season.
No.
But hey, nonetheless, I think the Astros are going for the AL. That's not what I want to happen. I want one of the 2 teams that you mentioned.
Yeah.
And then on the NL side, I don't think the Mets are going to Met. I think that rotation. Yeah, I think with that rotation, I think when you got a guy like DeGrom and you have Max Scherzer, as long as DeGrom stays healthy, which he has so far. You got other pieces there too. You have, along with Emmanuel Clase with the Guardians, arguably the best closer in the game too, with Edwin Diaz. Love that he comes out with the trumpets too. It's just
cool. That needs to be like that.
People have been making fun of it lately. I don't understand it.
I don't either. Like people want to say all this stuff between that and then what is it like the Braves do when an opposing pitcher, like if they knock a pitcher out, like they turn the lights off and flash the lights, like if people want to say it's Bush League, I think it's cool as hell.
It's something for the fan experience that they're at when they're at the game too. Like
it's so cool. I feel like anyways, I make it a huge event. Like have fireworks shootout, flamethrowers, whatever. Like what is it? Is it Japan? Like where the pitcher or the closer comes out like in those big hover things or whatever? Have you seen that?
What's that? Go ahead.
like I want to say is in Japan where like their relievers or closers, or maybe it's like the manager. He comes out like in one of those flying hover things or whatever. Like, have you seen that?
Oh no, I don't think I've
Dude,
seen
like
that.
it's awesome. Like I love it. If people that want to say, oh, it's Bush League, blah blah blah, it's like, dude, get over it. Like it's not 1995.
People look for
anymore,
any reason to complain, and Jeremiah says I'd hate it if it was Mets versus Yankees. A little Subway Series again rematch. I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen that for a while, but
it'd be exciting. But yeah, I just don't want to see the Yankees.
I don't want to see the Yankees either. I would be rooting for Rizzo and for Efros.
Yeah, I want Rizzo to do. I'd love to see Rizzo do good. I'd love to see Schwarber do good. I think people. That's another one. I think people are sweet. I think the Cardinals are sleeping on the Phillies.
That rotation's good there too. We got Nola, you got
rotation.
Wheeler,
Their
Ranger
defense,
Torres.
Their defense isn't the greatest, but man, if they can slug a couple of home runs, don't be surprised if St. Louis gets knocked out early. That'd be a real shame for.
Who did you have winning it?
I'm going Phillies. I'm going Phillies just because you're starting the series against. And I'm not just saying this because we're a Cubs podcast.
No, I got the Phillies winning that series too. I was talking the World Series though.
The World Series. Oh, who I got winning? Oh, I got Houston winning. I got Houston beating the Braves this time. But yeah, I think they're sleeping on the Phillies. When no offense to Jose Quintana, but it's game one. To be honest, I think all four of these games tomorrow, all four of these game ones are must-win games because there's 3-game series. But when you're going to start off with Jose Quintana, I don't know. I mean, I know the Phillies got a couple of lefties in their lineup, but me personally, I don't get why you wouldn't go with like Wainwright or Michaelis or whoever.
I could be wrong about this, but is there something with this home and road splits that maybe they want him to just start the home game, but they don't want him to start in a potential like if they're down 0-1 at home?
I guess.
Or I don't know how this really works for the like. What's the second game? Where's the second game?
Oh, they're all at St. Louis. All these wild card games they're all at. They don't swap.
Oh, there's no swapping.
There's no swapping. Now the next round, the 5-game round, the DSs they swap. I think
I wasn't aware of that for the wild card.
Yeah, for the wild card, they're all at So like just real quick, tomorrow we've got Tampa Bay and Cleveland at 11:07 on ESPN at Cleveland. Phillies Cardinals 1:00, Mariners Blue Jays 3:00, Padres Mets 7:00, and then tomorrow basically, well, not the same lineup, but all four play tomorrow. Same story. They're all playing at Cleveland, at Toronto, at New York, at St. Louis, and then Sunday same difference. I guess just because it's the wild card round.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
that's odd though. I didn't realize they were doing that. But yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense because
it's confused. I was confused like. Up until just a few days ago, I was like, I didn't realize what the playoff format was going to be, especially with the third wild card. And as far as which one is the bye and which one isn't. But I want to say the DS, I think the DS changes to 2-2-1, like 2 at home and then 2 you trade.
Yeah, that
the
makes
first
sense.
2 one place first, and then the last one. I think that's how it's going to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. So my pick, I guess I have the Mets.
I got you.
I don't know if I said that, but I do have the Mets pulling it out, beating the Astros. I don't know, man. I know Mets gonna Met. You hear it all the time. Mets gonna Met. I just think that with that rotation and they're a pretty damn complete team. I know they didn't come through against the Braves. It
wouldn't surprise me if they won it. It wouldn't surprise me if they won it too. Like. They can go. They're one of those teams that like can click, like with what you said with the rotation. So it wouldn't surprise them if they won. At the same time, it wouldn't surprise them if they lost the first 2 against the Padres.
No, nothing would shock me, man. Postseason baseball, best time of year.
It's crazy, man. It's
going to be fun to watch. I'm excited for. I just love the electricity of some October baseball, and hopefully the Cubs will be there next year. Tyler. Before we get out of here, we've been doing this for a little over an hour now. Actually, we probably went a half hour longer than we wanted to. Yeah. But this was great, man. We start talking baseball, we start talking Cubs, and you never know what we're gonna.
It is. It's hard. It's hard to put a time limit on it when we're just I mean, you just keep going and can't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop. Rockefeller
No.
Records, baby. Yeah, appreciate you guys in the comment section. Scott from Iowa, Jeremiah, all you guys. We appreciate the love. Anybody listening, watching, following us all season long, right? This has been like I said, this has been an awesome year on many levels.
And be on the lookout, guys. We all talked about it off, me, you, Ron, and Juice all talked about it earlier as far as a couple off-season ideas we have. Like Juice had an awesome idea, and I feel like everybody's – I think people are going to like it. It's a good idea as far as, off-season stuff.
Oh, we've got things prepared
ideas
and lined up. Juice came with the fire today in our Slack channel as far as like some ideas for off-season content, shows that we're going to do, probably maybe even some of those wind up being articles or something. We've got some stuff in the works here, and I'm excited to even do some of the stuff that we came up with pre-show.
Just before the show. There's a lot. That's the one thing about the off-season. You can talk about the moves, but then you can make up so much what ifs, what should have been, just all kinds of stuff. It's exciting.
Yeah, there's a lot that we can go dive into old trades and past stuff, and that's what took us so long before we get on here. But Tyler, with that said, any final thoughts on the final series of the season? We're gonna, like we said, any final thoughts of the last year and maybe postseason? What do you want to talk about?
As far as the final season, or as the final series, we took 1 out of 3, but still, man, nice note there at the end of the game, or the last series, or the last game, with the big offensive explosion, and the pitching, man. The pitching has given me a lot of positive vibes for next year. Love to see it, and I'll just say it for the 15th time, probably. It has gotten me excited for next year.
Yeah, the vibes are strong. The vibes are high. I don't know how you go into this offseason and not feel good as a Cubs fan unless they do nothing, which I do not anticipate this offseason. Unless they do nothing and make no moves, there's no reason for anything other than hope and doing good right now. Like, this is not the side of town where things are like, what are they going to do this offseason? What can they do? There's a lot the Cubs can do this offseason. So it should be fun. It should be interesting. We say so long to you guys.
Buckle up.
Buckle up. It'll be fun, man. Tyler, with that said, I want to remind everyone our episode of Cubs on Tap is presented by tapsportsnet.com. You can find all of our great articles over there for Chicago sports related content at On Tap Sportsnet on all social media platforms. We are Cubs on Tap at Cubbies on Tap, CUBBIES on Tap. I'm at Joey Knows Nothing. Tyler is at Teddy Freddy 270. Once again, you can find all of your Chicago sports related content, bets, golf, beer reviews, entertainment at ontapsportsnet.com. Tyler, this has been a blast.
It has.
What do you say we get on out of here the only way we know how?
I've missed saying it. Fuck the Cardinals. Hey, and by the way, St. Louis, fuck your little playoff motto. Grind the pepper. Grind the pepper, really? And exactly. And hey, St. Louis, it'd be a real shame if you guys lost the first 2. That's all
I don't think it'd be a shame at all. I don't think it'd be a shame at all.
You're right. It wouldn't be.
And let's go, Cubbies.